know if it's COM 3 or COM 4, or is it just a guess every time?
I've been using COM 4 lately.
COM 3 now.
Unbelievable.
I don't know, it's so tiny, so I gotta zoom in.
Hello.
We're different colors.
I'm much whiter. Yes.
I'm orange. I look like I have a fake tan. I thought that was the white balance on my camera.
No, I pulled down the hotness of these lights last time I streamed.
Oh. Well, I really look like I have a fake tan. I thought that was just my white balance.
Polish and don't tan. Even though I just went on a cruise, I just got back off of a cruise a couple weeks ago, and I still don't have any tan. Polish people don't tan. We burn.
Orange man bad, says Wes. Indeed. Okay. Have fun.
Hi, I'm getting set up. So what do I have here? I have a 2140 fun. Let's find out. Okay. So yeah, 2141. No power. What does the ticket say? The ticket says, yeah, no power. So let's see what we've got going on here. Greetings, everybody. The sound is cutting out. The sound is cutting out. Ah, I don't see any cutting out. Okay, 2141, no power. So what do we got here? I have a 2141. What board number? This is a 01700 board for those of you playing at home. First thing, well, it's already open. So first thing I do is visual inspection. Let's take a look in here. Anything going on? I don't see anything weird. You look in reflections. You get the light reflecting off the board, and you'll see like traces of liquid damage and stuff like that if there is any. I don't see anything. You also look in the inside of the bottom too. That's very telling quite often too. You can see streaks of liquid or something like that, and there's nothing in here. This is awfully clean, actually. They are usually a lot dirtier than this. This MacBook is living in a decent environment and is well taken care of. So, let's see. I don't see anything going on. Let's get a USB-C charger and a USB-C amp meter. Can I take Paul out on a date? I am spoken for. A wonderful fiance at home. So what do we got going on here? I got 5 volts and taking no amperage. 5 volts taking no amperage. You can't see that. There you go. 5 volts taking no amperage. That's the 10 milliamps is not really any amperage. 5.14 volts. I would like to see if that's accurate. I recently went through and reset all of mine to be more accurate than what they are. I want to see if this one is accurate because I didn't get this one over here. So multimeter. Let's see if this is actually 5 volts. So now we can test that here. Just any ground. And I could go to DC in. Should be on this fuse, I think. Range. Why are you screaming at me? DC voltage. What kind of range is this? What do you mean range? You're supposed to be on auto range. You are an auto ranging multimeter, so do your auto ranging. Oh, that's why. Lewis has it set to a range so that it's not crazy on the screen. Okay. Now, this should be DCN down this fuse. 5.18. Okay, that's close enough. 5.17 volts. This says 5.14. So that's good. So 5 volts, not taking any amperage. So that tells us a couple things. Nothing's turning on. It's not rebooting. It's not trying to turn on. So we possibly don't have any PP3v3. So let's see if PP3v3 is in existence here. So that should be on this one, I think. Maybe this one. None of them. It's on one of these. One of these is the 3v3 for the system. One of them is the 3v3 for the chip itself. So I have 3v3 there. Let's go to the schematic. 1.5 volts there. Let's go to the schematic and see which one's 3v3 for the system. Schematic. Oh, schematic and board view. There we go. Okay, so we are up here. Zoom in. These are the 6 capacitors I'm looking at here. So let's take a look here. We got 1v5, 3v3 UPC LDO, and 3v3 G3 hot. So the UPC LDO is something that the CD3217 creates itself. So if the CD3217 is powered and connected, it will create its own 3v3 LDO. And the 3v3 G3 hot, this is the one that goes all over the system to everything. So this was not here, right? So that's the bottom one. Check that. And we have 0 there. But if I go to one above it, the LDO is being created. So that CD3217 should be okay because it's creating its LDO signal. But the whole board is not creating 3v3. So let's check what we have on PP bus then. So PP bus is up here on these big fuses. So it's interesting working on something the same machines for years and years. Even though this is a completely redesigned system and everything's different on here, they always put things in the same places, kind of. So even when we get a hold of some of the newest ones with the M1 chips, they've really messed it up. They've changed everything. They've moved everything all over the place. But when you're looking at the Intel ones, when this one first came out, we didn't have the schematics for it at all. But I can recognize things on this right away. I see this, and I know that this is backlight. I see this, and I know that this is PP bus, because it was on this on the 1398 in the exact same spot. It was on this on the 1707 in the same spot. They just keep the designs pretty similar all the way up through it. So it helps a lot that you keep working on the same thing over and over again. So, yeah, we don't have PP bus. So if I put my multimeter on PP bus here, we have no PP bus, 0. So we don't have 3v3, we don't have PP bus. Next thing to see is if either one of them is shorted to ground. So I'll change our multimeter to ohms. And let's try 3v3. 3v3 is not shorted to ground. 13 kiloohms, 14,000 ohms, that is not shorted to ground. So let's check our PP bus. 0.6 ohms. That's the resistance that's in these multimeter probes. This is shorted directly to ground. So nice short to ground on PP bus. Now where is it? That's the fun thing. Let me check something. Let's go back to the schematic. Schematic import view. Keep hitting the wrong button. So if we go over here to PP bus, we'll go over to the fuses that we were checking on. PP bus G3 hot. This is everywhere where PP bus is going. Now, PP bus is any power rail that you're looking at on the compute on the system is kind of weird how you have to follow it. This is where PP bus goes, but it's not the only place where PP bus goes. And a lot of people get caught up with this very often when they first start out. Like right here we look at a fuse. So we know that this is PP bus G3 hot. And a fuse is nothing more than a piece of wire. That's all it is a piece of wire that's thin, and so that when you draw too much current through it, the piece of wire is going to burn up. So this is just a piece of wire here. So if this is PP bus on this side, even though this is called something different, this is PP bus because it's just going through a wire. It changes names just because it goes through a wire. Same with this here. This is a current sense resistor. So current sense resistors are how the machine tells how much something is drawing. Specifically for this, this is going to the battery, I believe, right here. Yeah, this goes to the battery connector through this MOSFET. And it uses this current sense resistor to see how much current is flowing to the battery. Either the battery is supplying current or the machine is charging the battery. And this current sense resistor here, we didn't get it yet. There's the current sense resistor. This current sense resistor here is just like it's sticking its toe into the line of voltage to and from the battery, and it's going to be able to, by putting your finger in the current flow, you can tell how fast the current is flowing, how much current is flowing. So this is a really tiny resistance, 0.005 ohms. That's minuscule. That's absolutely minuscule amount of resistance. And then we read the voltage drop. So when you have a resistor on a line that's flowing current, when the current flows, voltage is going to drop across that resistor. This is a very tiny resistance, so it's going to be a very tiny voltage drop. But this chip here that we're connected to, if we go back here, this is the U7000, the ISL. This chip can sense that voltage, that little minuscule tiny bit of voltage. It can sense that, and it knows how much current it is based on what voltage is here. So that's how the machine monitors that. But what I was getting at with this is that when we look at PP bus, this is PP bus. This, it's not called it, but it is PP bus. This, it's not called PP bus anymore. It's PVBAT G3 hot charger, but it is PP bus. It's only 0.005 ohms across this. This is 0 ohms because it's just a piece of wire. So this is PP bus. Even though it's not called that, something here can be shorted, and it's going to bring down this line. When I test here, it's going to look like it's shorted over if it was shorted over here. So this is something that trips up a lot of people when they're just starting out. That when you look at these power rails, you have to follow them out. You have to look at different things. Like if I'm looking for a PP bus short and I just look at all of this stuff and like, why can't I find it? Well, you have to go through this fuse. The fuse is just a piece of wire. So anything over here, this could be shorted to ground, and it's going to short PP bus because it's just going through this piece of wire. Same with this. This is another current sense resistor here. So anything here can be shorted, but it's going to look what I'm testing is going to look like PP bus is shorted because this PP bus HS CPU is also PP bus G3 hot. It's the exact same thing. It just changed names because it went through one component. And you could eliminate some of these things. Like I could take this resistor off of here, and it's going to separate this. It's going to separate the PP bus from PP bus HS CPU, and then I could test both of them and see which one it goes to. But it's and this XW too. XW is a crossover. It's just a via that goes through the board, or a topical via that you can see on the actual board, and that's just another piece of wire. So it went through a piece of wire and it turned to PP bus SOV sense in. So that is also PP bus, and that goes to the voltage sensing circuits. So something over here can be shorted to ground, and it's going to look like PP bus is shorted to ground because it went through the crossover. So this can get confusing. It gets confusing to a lot of people. Let's see, is this the one? Yes. No? No, that's 2V5, okay. I was thinking this was the board that has the capacitor that always goes bad in this corner here, but I don't think this is. Because this doesn't lead me back to PP bus. Okay, so we have a PP bus short, so this should be relatively straightforward. First thing I'm going to do is take a look in the microscope. We're going to take a good once over of the board before we take it out of the machine. So the places where PP bus can go bad. There's a bunch of, like I've just explained there, that it goes all over the place and it changes names and everything. But a lot of these capacitors, these larger capacitor banks on the corners and stuff, these are all for PP bus, the larger black squares there. So we just want to look at all of them and see if any of them have a crack in it, if it's bulging. A lot of times it'll show a little smoke stain coming out of the bottom of it, if it's bad. Just take a look at everything, give it a good once over. Because if we can find it before taking the board out of the machine, that would be great. That's like a win. That's wonderful if we could just see it, fix it before we even take the board out. It's maybe 1 in every 20 machines you can get away with something like that. No, everything looks fine on the top of this. We're going to have to take this out. I don't like whatever speckly stuff is all over here. That's weird. Don't know what that is all about. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Let's see. Okay, looks like we're going to have to take this, the board out of the machine. So, let me go get my screwdriver. I didn't bring my screwdriver with me. Let me go get my screwdriver. We'll take this board out of the machine. One moment, please. Hey, Mr. Clinton. Can you say hi? I'm back. Okay. Start with our T3 screws. Battery is disconnected. And we'll just run through and take out all of the ridiculous amount of screws that they've added to these machines. And all these connector covers. Wish they could just design a better connector that doesn't need to be held on. I love having the cats around. Some of the customers do not like having the cats around, and some of the customers love seeing the cat. Some people are allergic, I understand. Some people are just not animal lovers. They don't want to see a cat walking anywhere near their laptop. Mr. Clinton is sitting next to me, happily eating food. Some dry food out of his food dish. Audio is cutting off. That's not good. Am I just not loud enough? People keep complaining about the audio.
What's wrong with it?
Cutting it in and out. I have not been watching the graph. Problem with the plugin? Oh,
That was so weird.
I've only been noticed in the city once.
Oh look, there you go. Yeah, it keeps dropping frames.
Oh, we're dropping frames. It's not the audio. We're dropping frames.
Okay. I thought that files would be reliable. This is highly disappointing. Okay, lower bit rate.
I think we need to restart the router. Or not the router, the switch. I haven't started the switch in a while.
Let's listen to my own stream. Let's see what happens. What's wrong with this software?
Shorted PP bus. Don't know where. Taking the board out. Where's the regular tweezers? There they are.
Yeah, it's not audio issue. It's internet consistently going out.
I think we need to restart the switch.
Easy PP bus short? What is the usual
Hopefully.
PP bus short on this? Is it?
One of these big guys usually.
How often is it SSD bus convert?
Only when there's liquid.
It looks good.
Yes. Thank God.
See, I didn't pick one that had that SSD.
So one of the things that people always get wrong with, there's a lot of people that take apart their own Macs. And these connectors right here, this is for your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antennas. And we also see this a lot in iMacs, or not iMacs, Mac Minis too. So these pop onto a little circular connector. And it's a little bit against what everybody's always taught in electronics, is that you never pull from the wire, but we're going to pull from the wire. You go right to the base of the connector, right where the wire is. You really want to pull on the base of the connector and straight up from the board. Don't try to pull it out. Don't try to wiggle it or anything. Just straight up from the board, and it pops right off. That easy. People rip these circles right off the board all the time, or they rip these off of the wires. It boggles my
I
mind.
used to be really afraid of scratching the board with the tweezer, but I'd much rather the tweezer make a minor mark on the board and me pop the connector off than try to have to recrimp that Wi-Fi connector.
Definitely.
Where it wasn't audio, it was cutting out at all. It's just the stream kept stopping, so I lowered the bandwidth to something really low. And
It's
wow.
still stopping.
Okay, we'll lower this even more. I don't know if that's...
How are we getting 0 out? Maybe you should just stream back to Restream, because Restream was accepting it okay.
No, I did this just yesterday, and it was working with YouTube. Okay.
Okay, so stream bitrate is even lower. Try to keep the stream alive. With these connectors, there's a little locking bar at the end of it. You flip up the locking bar and pull the wire straight out, straight away from the connector. These get a fingernail underneath them, pop them up. This one under here you have to be careful with. This is for the power button and fingerprint sensor. And that's the ungodly amount of wires and connectors all disconnected. Around the fans, yes, yes. Oh, I forgot one speaker. And now we could lift the board out of the machine. Always lift and wiggle. Lift and wiggle. Wiggle will tell you what you've missed. You don't want to just pull straight up and find out you forgot something and rip it right out. Okay. We have freed the board from the machine. So, one of the things I do too is look at the inside of the machine. So a lot of times if something shorts and it burns up, you're going to see a little wrinkle somewhere in here or a little fiery stain somewhere in here. Don't see anything. So not that easy for us. So let's take a look at this. Back side of the board. So now I'm looking for any liquid damage or anything like that. Uh-oh. I see the culprit. And it's not good. So right here in this bottom corner, we have a chip that has a burn in the corner of it. So that's more than just MacBook food or dead ant or something like that, because the corner of this chip is damaged. The paint, it's actually a glass chip, but it has this epoxy coating or paint coating or something on the top. It has bubbled up on the corner there from the excessive heat that it's seen. And yeah, this may have been the culprit. A little piece of food that got under here, possibly. You see all the food around it. Let's see if we get a shot underneath it. I'll pull the microscope over the edge of the table. See if we can see underneath this. It's hard to see. It's even harder for you to see. See if I get a good image of that. Wow, you can barely see through all of the dust and yuck on it. Well, let's just get this off of here, see if we clear our PP bus short, and then we'll see that this. So, what makes me say "oh no" and makes me feel really sad seeing this is that this is the voltage regulator for the SSD, which Lewis just mentioned. We were just talking about for a second there. That usually when you have this problem, this is not going to come back alive. Why am I out of focus still? I'm in focus. Oh, okay. There we go. Okay. So this is the 2.5 volts for the SSD chips here, which are so bright they're washing everything out. So this is part of the SSD. This is, let's see if this is half. This is more than half of the SSD, because this buck regulator here is responsible for the ones on the other side as well, I believe. Yes, it is. So that buck regulator controls 4 chips. And so let's take a look at this. This design of this just boils my blood quite often. So if we look, we are on this side of the board. No, wait. Which way do I have this facing? Yes. We're on this side of the board in this bottom corner here. So this is what we're looking at. And this is the corner that's burnt right here. And we see we have PP bus, G3 hot, SSD 0 SNS. So again, this is PP bus G3 hot, and this is a current sense resistor. So this is the same as PP bus. One and the same. Didn't change names, but all it did was go through a 0.005 ohms of resistance to get there. So if we look at this chip here, so here's the PP2V5 NAND. So this is the 2.5 volts that runs the SSD. And this is the actual done voltage. This is where it's creating the voltage from here. This is the inductor. That's part of the buck regulator. The inductor and then the capacitors here are part of the buck regulator to bring the 12 volts down to 2.5 volts. So right here, this is basically 2.5 volts. An inductor is just a coil of wire. So that's all it is just a lot of wire coiled up. So this is a solid wire. You can think of this as just a solid wire. It has minimal resistance, and it's right here. This is 2.5 volts. This is PP bus. This is 13 volts, 12.5, 13 volts. This is 2.5. This has a fraction of a millimeter between the two connections, between 13 volts and 2.5 volts. If anything gets underneath this chip, it sends 13 volts to the 2.5 volts and destroys the SSD. And once you destroy these NANDs, that's it. Done. No data. No data for you. You get no data whatsoever. There's no way to get it back. And on top of that, it's these 4. So the configuration of this machine has 4 NAND chips on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, all controlled by this. And then it does have room for 4 more, but this configuration only has 1 more NAND chip on the other side of the board, right here. So the bulk of your information is all right here. And even if this one was still good over here, there's no way to get the data off of it without the rest of it. And even if we could get data off of it, files are spread across multiple chips in multiple areas. It doesn't fill one up and then start filling the next one up. It just bursts the data all over everything. So if this is burnt out, then that's done for your data. So how do we check that? First thing we could do is I will ohm check PP bus. So we have PP bus is right here, so I can go for PP bus right here. I will ohm check PP bus to the 2V5, and we're shorted. We have 0.6 ohms from PP bus to the 2V5. So now I'm going to take this chip off the board here. And if we clear our short, then chances are the SSD is dead and this is not going to work out. So we'll put a little bit of flux on it. Let me get some fume extraction. This chip is not designed by Apple. This is a Texas Instruments chip. And I'm willing to bet that they, I've never looked up a data sheet, but I bet that they want you to underfill this thing. Just like the NAND chip is underfilled to protect the NAND, well, this is just as important as underfilling the NAND. I think the underfill on the NAND is just because it's such a large chip and they don't want it flying off the board in a fall or something like that. There would be a lot of stress if it fell and these big chips trying to juggle themselves off the board. So let's look at the bottom side of that chip, where it was all burnt. So I have a little bit of burning. Let's see, which way did this go? It went on like that. So the bottom row, the bottom corner that has no ball, that's the PP bus, and then the next one is a 2V5. The whole chip looks kind of melty and fucked up. And this chip saw a lot of heat as it died. You see the internal layers are like curling up and stuff. That's why they're shiny and bubbly looking underneath there, the copper looking in the center. And then they disappear where they burnt away at the end there. So now let's ohm check it again. So we're going to go from PP bus G3 hot to 2V5. And it's open now. That 1K, 2K. Yeah, it's not shorted anymore. And I'm willing to bet PP bus is not shorted anymore either. Let's check that. That's a kind of weird number. Why are we going down? Okay, we're going back up. I was charging some capacitors. Oh, I'm reversed voltage, that's why. I had the ground one on this. Now they're both the same. Now I'm discharging capacitors, now I'm charging capacitors. So the short's gone. The PP bus is short is gone. The 2V5 is no longer shorted to PP bus. Let's see what 2V5 looks like to ground. Are these things really burnt up bad? 1.7 ohms to ground. The NAND is done. Yeah, 1.7 ohms is definitely not enough. If we go over here to this other NAND on the other side of the board, let's find its regulator. Where's its regulator? The regulator for the other one. Same chip, a little bit different look. If we look at this 2V5 to ground, even though it's only one chip, 10K, 11K, 12K, we're going up 14K, 15K. So one single chip is 17,000 ohms to ground. So then if you want to say, okay, well, we have 4 chips on here, so 17,000 ohms, divide, and you should get, you know, at least 5,000 ohms or something like that, about. We have 1.6 ohms. This SSD is done. Unless something here is shorted. We can test for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ultrasonically clean this corner. I want to clean everything up, all on this corner. And then we'll get the thermal cam and we'll inject voltage. We'll inject 1 volt directly into this and see what gets hot. So, permit me one moment. I will ultrasonically clean this, and then I will get the thermal cam, and I will be back. I will leave you with Cat. Mr. Clinton, say hi to your people. You're such a good boy. Okay, that's an ultrasonically clean board. Let me get the thermal cam. And that is a BlackBerry. We have a Mr. Clinton, a BlackBerry in here now. And a thermal cam. So, thermal cam, I need Ethernet cable. Ethernet cable. I need 12-volt power supply. Any 12-volt power supplies hanging out? Is this it? Are you 12 volts? 12 volts. Volts. Ethernet. Okay, I need to solder some wires onto this. Turn on my soldering iron. Let's dry off this alcohol that's on this board. Okay, and we want to cool it back down, so I'm going to put it in front of the fume extractor. And then I need some wires to solder to it. Okay. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to solder some wires on here. So we're going to put a wire on this. So the two 2v5s are the same thing. So I'm going to head and solder a wire to one of these. Always make sure your power supply is off before you do this. Before I even do that, I'm going to set my power supply because I have it set to 18 volts right now. So I'm going to set it down to 1 volt just in case it is on. Okay, we have 1 volt now. So now I will connect the ground to the screw hole right here. Sunny, worse than that. Dead SSD. Okay, so we have power supply there, power supply there. We are powering the 2v5 NAND circuit with 1 volt at a current limit of 5 amps. So now I will put it under the thermal camera. And let me see if I can get this thermal cam up on the screen. I don't see a shortcut. Where's my thermal cam? Colderstone. Thank you. Louis thanks you. The cats thank you. Okay, I have a thermal cam image on my screen. Let's see if I can get it to you. Is that on here? Display capture. There we go. Okay, so weird thing about these chips, the surface finish that's on them has a weird emissivity. I'm not saying that right. Emissivity for IR radiation. So these always look cold. Doesn't matter how hot they are, they always look cold. So to get around that on these, like you can spread some thermal paste on them or put a piece of tape on them or something like that. But I have found that a drip of alcohol works just fine. So if I take a Q-tip loaded with alcohol and cover these, now the alcohol evaporating is going to cool things off, but it does show us that all of a sudden they're warm. They're the same temperature as the board. They're not black holes freezing anymore. So that's just a weird thing of these chips here. So if you want to see what temperature they are, you have to cover them with something because the emissivity of the surface finish does not show up on a thermal cam. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the power supply.
When you plugged it in, did you lose internet?
No.
Whoa,
No, I fixed that.
what's that?
Okay. Output is on, and I am already seeing a hotspot on one of the NANDs.
What? That's bullshit. That's not fair.
I'm only taking a half an amp, so let's turn it up a little bit.
BlackBerry is chewing the wires to Stephen H.
Oop.
Microscopes. Yeah, nothing I can do. Sorry, Moto. Internet is shit.
We'll go for 1.5 volts. Anything different? We have a growing hotspot on that NAND right there. You can see, even on the thermal cam image, you can see the alcohol running away from it. Yep. Dead SSDs. Dead NAND chips. So as you saw that this was not any large amount of liquid damage or anything like that. So these again look like black holes until you change the emissivity pattern. And yeah, these are getting hot too.
That's cool. That's not fair. I was hoping it was a PP bus cache. Can you replace the NANDs on these and then format the computer with Apple Configurator?
I don't even think you need to use Apple Configurator. You can replace the NANDs on these in format, but usually that's not feasible. There is something about that you need to get it off of a board with the same NAND configuration, and you need to put the NANDs back in the same spots that they were on the other board. So basically you need to get a working, it's just like with iPhone, you need to have a working board, and then you remove everything and put everything from a working board on this one, and now you have another working board. So what's the point? I already had a working board. I don't need another working board.
And the cost.
It's so much work, because all this stuff is underfilled. It's hours of labor to get that done. So there's no point in doing that at all.
I don't have another mic event in it. You're fine, man. You can hear me just fine. Signal noise ratio.
We could turn the fume extractor off. That might
I don't
help.
have another mic here, sorry.
There, that might help.
And anyway, there's no reason for me to put a mic on because this is where Paul's gonna take a swig of the liquor by his desk and then wait to go on to the next computer. Maybe I'll take. That's not fair. Dead SSD.
Dead SSD. And you see that when we looked at this, all it had was just a bunch of junk all over the place. There was no liquid damage. There was no event that happened that caused this to do this. It was just random dust got into a random spot at a random time and randomly shorted out the NAND.
Do you have any Disaronno left?
I don't have any more Disaronno in the store.
I love
I need
Disaronno.
more Disaronno in the store.
After a board like this, Disaronno isn't good.
A nice Disaronno in my tea would be great. I have Jack. I think I have Jack. Oh, there's Ciroc in the freezer, too. I could have a shot of Ciroc. Yeah. Sucks. This is why, for me personally, I don't ever want to buy a machine that has an integrated SSD. I don't like the idea. I don't see that there's that much of a reason for it. You know what's the regular SSD is what, 6 gigabits transmission to, like, how much more are you getting with this? I've never looked it up. Are you actually getting a full 10 gigabits out of this thing instead of just 6 gigabit SATA connection? I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the idea. I don't like not having upgradability. I don't like stuff like this that happens all the time. You have power supplies for these NAND chips, and they die with the simplest little crap, and they take out all of your data. Oh, and we were talking about changing the NAND chips. Like, yeah, we could change the NAND chips and get the machine working again, but most of the time that's not the most important thing for these people. Most of our customers want their data back. That's the most important thing. Who cares about the machine? Machines are replaceable. Your data is not replaceable. So to have the data so volatile that this one chip here can just destroy all of your data is just terrible. I don't like it. But unfortunately, it's the way that everybody's going. Everybody's stopping using changeable SSDs in everything. And they claim that it's to make them smaller, make them lighter, make them more power efficient, and they'll claim all kinds of stuff for everything. I think when it comes down to it I think the biggest claim is that you can't upgrade. You can't buy a 128 MacBook and put a 2 terabyte drive in there if you want. No, you have to pay them their exorbitant amount of money that they want for you to upgrade to that 2 terabytes when you buy it. That sucks. Yeah, soldered RAM too. I don't get along with soldered RAM. I don't like it. I definitely wouldn't like it. I have a Dell gaming laptop that I use as my daily driver, and everything's upgradable on it. It's a couple years old now, and I've 64 gigs of RAM and 4 terabyte hard drive, 2 terabyte 4 terabyte SSD SATA drive, and 2 terabyte boot drive storage now, and I don't see the upgrade of doing this, of soldering it to the board. But some engineer somewhere either thought that was good, or the marketing team, somebody called for all of this. Stream is jacked, yeah. I don't know what's up with our internet. I'm gonna have to restart our router. Not our router, our switch. The switch hasn't been restarted in a while. Yeah, I see it dropping frames. Yeah, I'm gonna go restart our switch, I think. Maybe our router too, I don't know. That's a pain in the ass to do that. So yeah, our phones are gonna be out for a little while, so if you're calling Rossmann Repair Group, you may not be able to get through if I go restart the switch. Yeah, this stream is running terrible, and I don't know why. YouTube was having issues. That would be ideal if it was actually YouTube that was having issues instead of us. I mean, for crying out loud, we're only at a 4 megabit stream, and it still can't sustain a 4 megabit stream. Sun flare hitting Earth. It's possible. It's very possible. I don't know what we're using for encoding on this machine, but it's not this machine. This machine has a Threadripper and a 2080 in it. I don't think it's this machine. Yeah, I can't fix stream. That's not gonna happen. No, actually, I'm watching it drop frames, and I'm not talking when it drops frames, so that's why it kind of looks like it's okay. It's not even sustaining 4 megabit. Yep, see? High, drop frames high. Yeah, see? Dropped it again. Yep. Okay, yeah, that's it for this one. Sad ending. It's a bad phone call to make. Can't get your data, can't fix your machine. Or you can just change your board for, this is probably a $900 board, if not more. That sucks. No step on stream. Well, have a good night, everybody.